and welcome to another episode of Mysteries and Secrets. I'm Yvonne Davis, and in this video, we are going to be looking at the mystery of the Avebury stones. So let's get to it. Oh, sorry, I'm a little busy. I'm reading one of my favorite books. This story begins in 2008 when I was reading The Goatfoot God by Dion Fortune. That summer, I traveled to England and visited the magical places of Stonehenge, Avebury, and Glastonbury. I was intrigued by all of them, but it turns out that Dion Fortune actually wrote about Avebury in her novel, The Goatfoot God. She wrote about the magical powers invested in the megalithic stones in Avebury. They were transmitters of the power of the earth because they had been placed along ley lines. We'll get into that. There are powerful secrets and mysteries surrounding the Avebury stones. Why were they built in the first place? Why did the people who lived approximately 2500 BC, why did they build the stones? Why did they bring these incredibly massive megalithic stones into a circle and create a hinge, which is sort of like a moat in the shape of a circle? Why did they do this? Well, they apparently understood something about the energy of the earth, because it turns out that the stone circle was built right over the ley lines. And so we're going to definitely talk about what the ley lines are. So who were these people? And what were they doing? And are the stones really powerful? Is there magic in them? There are incredible secrets and mysteries surrounding the Avebury stones. And Dion Fortune knew something about it. And of course she did, because she was a ceremonial magician and she had contact with the ascended masters. So she understood that there was power in these stones and they could help with healing the earth. And they can also help human beings to heal themselves, and they can actually take the energy from the earth and use it in their magic. But one of the questions that still remains today is, were there sacrifices at the ceremonies and rituals that the people who built these stones were involved in? And what effect did that have? So I will do my best to answer those questions in this session of Secrets and Mysteries. Avebury is a Neolithic hinged monument containing 3 stone circles around the village of Avebury in Wiltshire in southwest England. One of the best known prehistoric sites in Britain, it contains the largest megalithic stone circle in the world. The Avebury stone circle is thought to have been constructed in Neolithic times between 2500 to 2000 BC. The Beaker people, so called after their pottery, are thought to have played a major role in their formation, as they did with Stonehenge. Avebury is more than just a stone circle, although this is its main feature. The Avebury stone circle has no admission charge. It costs nothing to walk around the high earth banks that enfold the village, to stand below sarsen stones that resemble frozen giants, or walk to nearby Silvery Hill and see the closest thing to an Egyptian pyramid that Neolithic Britons ever built. Avebury is a mystical wonderland. But what is it that makes the Avebury stones so mystical? In spite of much scholarly work on the ancient prehistoric inhabitants of Britain, which has, in recent years, entirely refuted the entrenched idea that they were woad painted savages, the idea still persists. Britain's ancestors had a highly developed civilization dating back thousands of years. They required considerable skills and knowledge for the construction of such monuments. Carbon dating places Silvery Hill at 2600 BC and Avebury Stone Circle about 100 years later. So why did these people build the Avebury Stone Circle? And does it really have power? The village of Avebury in Wiltshire, which lies in the heart of the Wiltshire Downs, 90 miles west of London and 20 miles north of Stonehenge, contains one of the greatest stone circles in the British Isles. It may be the largest known stone circle in the world, older than the more famous Stonehenge, and for many visitors, far more spectacular. The multiple rings of Avebury are cloaked with mysteries, which archaeologists have only begun to unravel. Some people believe there is even an extraterrestrial link. Its original purpose is unknown, although archaeologists believe that it was most likely used for some form of ritual or ceremonial purpose. These rituals and ceremonies could have related to end-of-life transition or rites of passage, warrior competitions, or celebrating the return of the sun on the winter solstice, and possibly even appeasing the gods through sacrificial offerings. The first signs of activity at this megalithic complex, now known as Avebury, can be traced back to the first half of the 4th millennium BC. But it suffered severe damage, mostly from the 14th century onwards, due to farming and religious zealotry. Although reports from antiquarians and archaeological research have helped to reconstruct its original aspect as closely as possible. A huge man-made mound, the largest in Europe from pre-modern times, known as Silvery Hill, is the other great element of the Avebury complex. It has a conical shape with an imposing height. Silvery Hill was erected near the source of the Kennet River, and you can easily climb to the top of the hill and relax in peace and quiet, as I did, along with a friend in August of 2008. It's possible that the whole complex was designed as a schematic representation of the celestial scene visible during the rising of Orion's brightest star, Rigel, some days after midsummer. Is this stone circle placed on the ley lines? What are the ley lines, and do they have some kind of magical power? Are they enchanted? I want to take you back in time to the turn of the 20th century and the Victorian era when Dion Fortune was born. She was born in 1890 and she lived until 1946 when she died at the age of 56. This was a very tumultuous time in the history of England, and so much was happening. There was so much turmoil, and she was part of trying to help Britain to find its way. And that's what her books were really about. And she was touching back on the magic, the long history of magic in the British Isles. And they knew how to draw on the energy and the magic that was embedded in the stones and in the earth and in the spirit beings, the divas and the fairies and the elves. And they knew how to communicate with these energetic beings. And that was what inspired her to write her novel, The Goatfoot God. I've been rereading The Goatfoot God, and as is often the way with Dion Fortune's novels, have come across a couple of references I've never noticed before. The lines of force and lines of power that she describes as running across the land between ancient sacred sites. She must be referring to what we now call ley lines, and perhaps she was aware of Alfred Watkins' seminal work on this phenomenon, as I believe he first wrote about them in the 1920s. Ley hunting was once very popular. I remember once joining a local group of ley hunters, and we had loads of fun, not least because a surprising number of the lines seemed to pass through village pubs. So far as I am aware, less is made of them now, although perhaps I'm out of touch. I don't think it's a subject Dion Fortune mentions elsewhere, but it occurs to me that they are a literally vital part of the etheric body of the earth, and this was something she was much concerned with, particularly in her work with the planetary being and the planetary entity. I'd be interested to learn if anyone has taken up this aspect of her work. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Avebury stones. There's so much more to say about them. In summary, Avebury Henge is one of the world's largest stone circle complexes that spans over 3 miles. The location of Avebury is not arbitrary. It's related to the power of the ley lines and the earth body energy. The etheric body of the earth can be characterized as the same kind of energy as the plant kingdom. There's currently no evidence that human sacrifice took place at Stonehenge or Avebury, at least not by the original builders. Although archaeologists have found the remains, the skeletal remains of young male warriors that were buried there thousands of years ago. They showed signs of ritual death. It probably happened in a battle between competitive warriors. Stonehenge and Avebury were significant enough to draw people from faraway lands to their rituals and ceremonies. There are theories that the stone circles were built as a way to track the seasons of the year and for the purpose of celebratory rituals, such as celebrating the return of the light at the winter solstice. But there is no doubt that the stones radiate power, as anyone with psychic sensitivity can tell. They're like portals to a more magical and mystical reality. I hope that someday you will have the opportunity to visit Avebury and to be transported to a more magical and enchanted land. But until then, you might enjoy reading The Goatfoot God by Dion Fortune. It's as good as having your own time machine. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. This is Yvonne Davis, signing out. Remember, stay in the mystery.